Welcome back to FineScale Modeler Weekly. I'm Tim Kidwell.
And I'm Kendra Bell. The Pontiac GTO has a long and storied history, first appearing in the 1964 production year and the last rolled off the assembly line in 2006. The 2004 model year reintroduced the GTO with its fifth generation, the first since 1974. It incorporated a 5.7-liter small block V8 LS1 engine famous for powering the Corvette C5.
Essentially a rebadged Holden Monaro imported from Australia for the U.S. market, the new GTO didn't sell as well as General Motors hoped it would, despite the powerful engine and legendary name. The AMT 125th scale 2004 Pontiac GTO, originally appearing as a Polar Lights kit from RC2, is the first time Round 2 has released this kit, meaning it hasn't seen the light of day for practically 20 years.
The AMT kit has 83 parts, starting with a nicely molded body, well-molded front and rear clips, separate hood, cowl with molded wipers and spoiler. The head and tail lights and fog lamps, along with the windows, are provided in clear plastic.
The LS1 builds up quickly from block and transmission halves, valve covers, faceplate, molded pulleys and belts, and your choice of a fuel-injected intake manifold or an Edelbrock-style manifold, carburetor, and air cleaner.
The chassis exhibits plenty of detail, to which you'll add a multi-part front suspension with stabilizer and posable spindles. For the rear suspension, you'll find separate struts, wishbones, and anti-roll bar. The drive shaft, lower part of the differential, and trailing suspension arms come as a single part, as does the dual exhaust.
The interior builds up from a floor with molded back seats. The thoughtful engineering provides two-part bucket seats that hide attachment points, a part for separate pedals, shifter, steering wheel, a beautifully molded dash, and equally good-looking door interiors. You'll set it all on top of unbranded vinyl tires and your choice of stock or custom wheels.
The all-new decal sheet supplies aggressive graphics, racing stripes, 5 choices of instrument cluster, badging, and Indiana license plates. You'll also get a pair of silver stickers for the side mirrors.
This may be a reissued kit, but the tooling looks good and could easily pass for a newly molded kit from Round 2. There will be a couple of ejector pin marks that you're going to want to fill, but overall, cleanup should be straightforward.
The instructions list the exterior and interior colors, but there are no paint callouts in the instructions. You'll want to make sure you do your research before you start painting.
Nazi Germany made wide use of the Opel Blitz truck before and throughout World War II. It was tough, reliable, and had a flexible design that allowed it to be modified for a range of conditions, from the deserts of North Africa to the frigid and muddy battlefields of the Eastern Front and all across Europe.
Italeri has released an all-new 1/35th scale of the Opel Blitz A, the 4x4 version of the truck that was the transport and logistics backbone of the Wehrmacht. When you open the instructions, you'll notice a single insert with corrections showing the map of sprue A and step 8, both highlighting part 56 that was mislabeled 52.
The straight 6 engine builds up from block halves, valve cover, oil pan, fan, timing belt and pulleys, carburetor and intake manifold, air filter, and distributor. The nicely detailed radiator builds up from 3 parts, and you also get a complete gas tank and separate exhaust.
Front and rear differentials and axles mount to detailed leaf spring suspensions and connect to the transmission via 3 drive shafts. In turn, those drive single wheels up front and dualies in back. 7 Continental branded vinyl tires provide traction on all 4 corners and the spare behind the cab. Speaking of the cab, you'll assemble it from a separate floor, rear wall, doors and quarter panels, roof, hood halves, and grille.
Inside are separate pedals, shifter and controls, split bench seat, dash, and steering wheel. A single sprue of clear plastic supplies the front, side, and rear windows. Out back, you find a truck bed and sides with simulated wood grain and frame molded on. Inside, you'll place troop benches, and you have a choice of covering the back with a canopy or leaving it open and installing a wooden bed rack instead.
Color paint guides provide camo schemes for 4 Opel Blitzes in Wehrmacht service: 21st Panzer Division Libya, summer 1942, Eastern Front, Spring 1943. 2nd Panzer Division Artillery Regiment 74, Normandy, June 1944, and Africa Corps Unknown Unit, Libya 1941. All color callouts are for Italeri acrylic paints, but FS or RAL numbers are provided when possible. A small decal sheet printed by Cartograph includes license plates, placards, and warning markings.
Italeri's all-new Opel Blitz looks like an incredibly detailed kit. There are a couple of spots you'll need to handle ejector pin marks, but it should make a great-looking model. One word of warning, keep the sprue maps handy because there are no numbers printed on sprues D and E, and you'll need them to help locate parts.
Extra parts hint at other versions in the offing. No surprise there. The box says no figures included, but there are 2 on sprue E. If you use them, we won't tell. The hunt for references for figure modeling can take us far and wide down many rabbit holes.
For as useful as the internet is, it is always nice to find a book that gathers all the information you're looking for into one place.
This is the case with Japanese military uniforms 1841 to 1929 by Ritta Nakanishi. Number 59 of publisher Helion's Asia at War series, the book's original Japanese edition was printed by Dai Nippon Kaiga in 1985 and reprinted in 2023. Helion now brings us the definitive English edition for Japanese military uniforms from the fall of the shogunate to the Russo-Japanese War.
This 88-page softcover book is an illustrated feast for any figure modeler interested in Japanese military accuracy. Inside you'll find uniforms and insignia of Tokugawa troops and pro-imperial forces, clan markings and battlefield attire for the Boshin War, weapons and equipment, Imperial Guard, conscript army, and expeditionary forces, the Emperor's dress uniform as Supreme Commander, and full-color illustrations of Army and Navy officers and enlisted men.
In total, you're looking at more than 400 color illustrations, 300 diagrams, and plenty of information that will help you paint better and more accurate Japanese military figures for the era discussed, all in one easy reference.
Helion has a number of at-war series books, and we'll keep our eyes open for other titles that would be of particular interest to modelers like you. ICM released its 1/35th scale Sikorsky CH-54A Tarhe helicopter to much praise back in 2023, but not everyone can fit such an enormous model into their collection.
It was only a matter of time before ICM released a smaller version of the US Heavy helicopter, and that time is now with its 1/72nd scale Tarhe kit. While simplified due to scale, the kit doesn't skimp on the details.
The 20-page instructions show you how to build the Tarhe over 140 steps. You'll find paint callouts throughout for ICM acrylics. You'll also find 5 light gray sprues and 1 clear sprue packaged separately.
As you might expect, work begins with the cockpit, including the floor, anti-torque pedals, cyclic and collective sticks, instrument panel, center console, and seats. 2 halves form the chopper's front end and surround the cockpit subassembly.
The CH-54A's cargo and tail sections build up from 4 main exterior parts and include internal bracing for strength. You'll also install a winch along the way. The main rotor assembly and twin engines present plenty of detail with multiple parts for each, including filter cells for the Pratt & Whitney turboshaft engines. The landing gear are suitably fine. The front wheel comes as a single piece and halves supply the rears.
5 blades round out the main rotor, and a single part handles the tail. Clear parts detail all of the windows, and the instructions include mask templates to help you paint. Waterslide decals offer you markings to finish one of 4 Sikorsky CH-54As, all in dark green. Tarhe 67, 18420, 273rd Aviation Company, Vietnam 1968. Tarhe 67, 18426, 101st Airborne Division, Vietnam 1968. Tarhe 68, 18455, 295th Aviation Company, Frankfurt, Germany 1976. And Tarhe 67, 18428, 1160th Aviation Company, Transport, Georgia 1980s.
Despite the difficulties of operating in a country currently at war, ICM has become a preeminent manufacturer of modern model kits. The new 1/72nd scale Tarhe is no exception.
Look for reviews of the Italeri Opel Blitz, ICM Tarhe, and other kits in upcoming issues of FineScale Modeler magazine and at FineScale.com.
Where you can find plenty of how-to stories, scale modeling tips and tricks, show galleries, videos, and more.
And don't forget to subscribe to FineScale Modeler magazine. It's easy. Just click the link in the description for a special offer for those who watch FSM videos.
Sometimes you may be looking for a kit, or maybe you've found a kit and you're keeping your eye on it, but it's just a tad bit too expensive. Now this is where going to a model show, particularly local ones, can be a really good idea for you, because a lot of the vendors there are trying to get rid of models out of their stashes, and you might be able to find a kit for relatively inexpensive that you've been looking for that might have really put a hole in your wallet if you had bought it from somewhere else. For instance, this Meng Fokker DR1, I've been watching one of these kits in the local store, and it's being sold for, or they've got it marked at, about $100. And so I haven't really pulled the trigger on it. I'm not saying that that's the wrong price, it's just too steep for me right now. I happened to be at a show, I was walking through the vendor room, and I saw this kit on a table. I asked the vendor how much, the vendor said $25. I was like, can I take a look inside? He says, sure. Now, on this one, the box looked in really good condition. Yeah, there's some overspray, obviously he had sprayed something, but you know what, the box is in good condition, and that's telling me that this model is probably in good condition too. Open it up. Now, I'm looking at nicely stacked sprues. This is a guy who is taking care of his model, so I'm already in a really good position. But I am looking down in there and I'm seeing that, yeah, some parts have been painted. So I went ahead and started to take things out at the table. And you shouldn't feel bad about doing that. They're trying to sell you something, so you want to make sure that you're getting what it is that you're paying for. So I just started to unpack, and meanwhile he's talking to me about the kit and why it's, you know, in the condition that it is in. I can see that it's, like I said, he's painted some parts. Obviously he was going to build the Red Baron's ride at some point, but decided, you know, not to. This isn't bad at all, okay? You know, having some parts already painted on the sprue, this is looking actually really good. Now here's an interesting thing. This part right here, this lower wing, it was chronically short shot in this area. And there were a lot of people who at the time would complain about that short shot piece. Interestingly enough, the owner of this kit, the vendor, he had at the time contacted Meng, and Meng sent him a replacement part. And he's included that replacement part in this kit. So I mean, this guy is really taking care of his models. So setting the sprues aside, what else is there? The instructions. This is important. At least they are to me. I want to be able to have the instruction book, even though you could probably download it online. I like to have the instruction book, and this instruction book is complete. Yeah, you know what? The back page or two were bent. Who cares? Everything else is in there, and additionally, the photo etch metal fret was there, and the decals in the sealed bag. That's nice. So this kit is actually in really good condition, and I'm very happy about finding it. However, that still leaves me with the problem of what to do with these painted parts, because I don't want to paint it in the Red Baron's paint scheme. Now, I could probably go over it with primer, and it's going to be okay. But when we start getting more layers of paint on there and primer, you run into the problem of maybe, you know, some detail disappearing. I don't want that to happen. So I don't know what paint he used. It could be, I'm assuming it's lacquer. It could be enamel. I doubt it. It might be, you know, like Tamiya acrylics. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and remove the majority of the paint. Now, I don't need it to be perfect, but what I want to do is try to get down as close to the underlying styrene as possible. I like the isopropyl alcohol when removing paint. Now, I have this really nice, what is it, 9.5 by 13 inch Pyrex dish. So I have a pretty good sized receptacle for this kind of work now. Now, yes, it is tinted, but that's okay. All I'm gonna do is put this sprue right down in there, push it down in there a little bit, and then make room for this piece over here. Actually turn it over so it gets in there. And you can already see that that paint is coming off. Look at that, look at how it's removing that paint. Very, very nice. I'm very happy about the work that it's already doing. So actually what I'm gonna do is just leave it in there for a good soak for a few minutes, which probably is going to be longer than I need. Come back in about 10 and see where I'm at, because I know the alcohol will attack the paint, but it's not gonna hurt the plastic. So about 10 minutes later, I'm really happy with how this is looking. So, you know, on some of this, I'm just gonna go around and with a toothbrush, just work at it, and look at that. Look how nicely that's come away. And there is gonna be, and you're gonna see it, there's gonna be this sort of maybe with pinkish stain, but that's just, you know, residual pigment that's in there. And that's going to be able to be taken care of with a primer coat. I am really happy with how these parts have turned out. The red has come off, and while there is still just a hint, a residual bit of tint, these parts are basically brand new. So with just a little bit of work with the rest of these paint covered parts, I am going to basically have a new kit for a quarter of the price. Now, this is an example of, I guess what you would say, the upper end, the least touched without it being completely new, the least touched of a used kit. While at the other end of the spectrum, you're going to find at these shows kits that are gonna be missing parts, that parts are broken, or that it's partially put together. You've got a glue bomb, you've got to figure out what you're gonna do with it. You have to, for yourself, judge what your comfort level is. But you really should, when you go to these shows, take a stroll through the vendor room, because you're never certain until you do whether or not you're gonna find a diamond in the rough.
So Tim, back in the beginning of June, you went down to Louisville, Kentucky, and you shot photos for WonderFest.
I did, shot photos and video. Now, WonderFest, as you know, is a science fiction and horror focused modeling show. They have a lot of really cool guests, you know, that have been involved in either TV or movies. You know, the industry is going back many, many years. And this year they had a really cool room that sort of recreated the modeling workshop from early ILM when they were working on Star Wars. So that was really neat. If you ever get a chance, you should really go to WonderFest. But I did shoot some video of a ton of great models, and a couple of them are going to make our producer, Ben, a little bit jealous. But here it is. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
U.S. heavy.
No! No!
Ah, sorry.
Yay! Yay! Cheers all around.
Mission saved.
One more time. Here we go. As Ben's like, yeah, sure, Tim. One more time. I turned to the vendor and I said, I said nothing. I said nothing to the vendor. I just stared. I stared. $25? That's too much.